Hey, I didn't see you there. So, pretty much what we're going to see here is the place of the South within the nation and the extent of black freedom were being decided not only in Washington, D.C., but also in state legislatures and county seats of the South. And blacks were eagerly participating in this process. Unfortunately, for free blacks, for some reason, the ex-slaveholders just couldn't let go of the Old South. And this kind of affected the ex-slaves' struggle to become free workers. A small band of white women struggled for equality. However, their attempts to gain voting rights for women were a bust. So the real problem here is a gigantic struggle in Reconstruction, which in other words is determining the consequences of Confederate defeat and emancipation, which is states wanting to break from the Union. The Southerners' new South was a different South from what they were used to and wished to return back to. But in the end, as always, white Southerners did prevail. So pretty much what they wanted was Reconstruction, but with that comes a Reconstruction policy, aka a quick reconstruction of the Union. So now we have the African American quest for autonomy. Slaves had to be at work in the fields by dawn, but freedom permitted blacks to sleep through sunrise. Whites did not like the emancipation of slaves. They said that it caused blacks to go back to their natural condition of being lazy, irresponsible, and wild. Whites thought, without the discipline of slavery, that blacks would go wild and return to the way that they called the Indian and the buffalo. After freedom, former slaves were struggling and could no longer afford to roam the countryside, avoid work, and provoke whites, which caused them to soon be back at work in the whites' kitchens and fields. Many ex-slaves had many dreams, such as economic independence and land. They also had the desire to learn to read and write. Another black dream would be to reunite with their former families that they once had before slave owners broke them up. One dreamer, who was a former slave, John Q. A. Dennis, wrote a document asking Secretary of War Edwin Stanton to help reunite his family. Another document, written by Reverend S. B. Randall, agreed that it is important for freed slaves to have the right of legal marriage and emphasized that being emancipated was only the first step to full freedom. Whoa, what's this? A mystery document? I wonder what it is. Let's see here. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that in the states declared in rebellion against the United States, the President shall, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, appoint for each a provisional governor, whose pay and emoluments shall not exceed the of a brigadier general of volunteers, who shall be charged with the civil administration of such state? Why, that's the Wade Davis bill! Now, on July 1864, Congress put forth the Wade Davis bill. The bill was sponsored by Henry Winter Davis of Maryland and Benjamin Wade of Ohio. It was a bill that demanded that at least half of the voters in a conquered rebel state take the oath of allegiance before Reconstruction could begin. It also banned all ex-Confederates from participating in the drafting of new state constitution and guaranteed the equality of freedom before the law. But Lincoln refused to sign this bill. Lincoln continued to nurture the formation of loyal state government under his plan. Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Virginia, also known as the Lincoln States, fulfilled Lincoln's requirements, but Congress refused. On March 4, 1865, President Lincoln gave his second inaugural address, saying, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right, as God gives us to right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's woods, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace." He wanted peace and a short end to war and slavery. In his last public address in April 1865, Lincoln publicly expressed his endorsement of suffrage for Southern blacks. But 4 days later, he was shot dead. Now people were wondering, Who had the authority to devise a plan for Reconstruction for the Union? Everybody knew it had to be someone of executive responsibility. Lincoln's primary aim was the restoration of national unity sought through a program of speedy, forgiving political reconciliation. He felt very strong about his plan, however, Congress feared his program meant restoring the old Southern ruling class to power. But as the war quickened, it eroded slavery and tradition agriculture, having no choice but to make a new labor system. In December of 1863, Lincoln laid out his terms in the Proclamation of Amnesty and Reconstruction. His terms were that he offered full pardon, restoring property and political rights to rebel willing to renounce secession. He also excluded only high-ranking Confederate military and political officers. It did not require ex-rebels to extend social or political rights to ex-slaves, nor did it anticipate a program of long-term federal assistance to freedmen. When Lincoln said these terms, abolitionists were enraged. Wendell Phillips of Boston charged that the president makes the Negro's freedom a mere sham. He is willing that the Negro should be free, but seeks nothing else for him. The most critical problem in the result of the war was the South's transition from slavery to free labor. The Confiscation Acts passed during the war punished traders by taking away their property. While in the Mississippi Valley, occupying federal troops announced a new labor code. The code required slaveholders to sign contracts with ex-slaves to pay wages. It obligated employers to provide food, housing, and medical care. It also outlawed whipping, but it reversed to the Army the right to discipline blacks who refused to work. The code required black laborers to enter into contracts, work diligently, and remain subordinate and obedient. Military leaders sought to restore plantation agriculture with wage labor. This resulted in a hybrid system that was temporarily called compulsory free labor.